Commander Ava Thorne checked the time display on her wrist-mounted console. 0700 hours, Lunar Standard. Another simulated Martian dawn was breaking across the stark gray plains outside the habitat module. It was an illusion, of course. Here, on the far side of Earth's moon, dawn was just a slow crawl of light over jagged craters that had seen no life for billions of years. However, the habitat, nicknamed Ares Base Lambda, was designed to feel like a stepping stone to Mars, serving as a test bed for humanity's next giant leap. Today, the test was boredom. For the past month, Ava and her two-person crew had been living out a mock long-duration mission. They were sealed off, completely isolated, practicing for the real thing, the years-long voyage to the Red Planet. Their days were filled with endless drills, maintenance checks, and the monotonous whir of life support systems. "Morning, Commander," Dr. Kenji Tanaka's voice crackled over the internal comms. He was already in the small, cramped xenobotanical lab, probably hunched over his hydroponic algae tanks. Kenji was a brilliant mind, the kind of person who could spot a new species of moon microbe from a mile away. But he was more comfortable talking to plants than people. He also tended to forget to shower. "Morning, Kenji," Ava asked with a faint smile, referring to Lena Petrova, their communications specialist. Lena was the youngest of the crew, sharp as a laser and endlessly curious. She was the one who kept them connected to the distant signals from Earth, even if those signals were just pre-recorded messages for this simulation. "Heard her moving around in her bunk," Kenji replied. "She's probably already trying to crack that encrypted data packet from the last cycle. Says it's a waste of a good mind just sitting around and twiddling our thumbs." Ava sighed. Lena had a point. The simulation was mind-numbingly dull, but discipline was key to survival out here. "Tell her to stick to the protocol, Kenji. No unscheduled comms. We're still a week out from simulated re-entry." Suddenly, a harsh, blaring alarm pierced the quiet hum of the habitat. Red warning lights flashed across the control panel in front of Ava. There were no time drills scheduled. Her heart instantly began to race. This was the real thing. "Alert! Unidentified energy signature collision trajectory." Ava's heart leaped into her throat. Collision? Out here? Impossible. This sector of space was mapped down to the last micrometeorite. No collisions were projected for tens of thousands of years, and even those were only chanced in the low double digits. "What was that, Commander?" Lena's voice, sharp with alarm, immediately cut through the comms. "Collision alert," Ava stated, her voice tight. "Kenji, get to the main console. Lena, start running external diagnostics. I'm seeing an unknown signature, fast moving." On the main screen, a single bright dot, moving with incredible speed, zipped into the perimeter zone. It wasn't on any known trajectory. It wasn't from Earth or any satellite or anything humanity had ever launched. "It's accelerating," Kenji said, his voice a strained whisper. "Impact in T-minus 60 seconds. Check that. 22 seconds. Check that again, minus..." Before anyone could utter another word, the dot flared. A blinding flash erupted on the screen, followed by a shock wave that rattled the habitat modules. Dust and debris rained down inside the base. The lights flickered, then stabilized. "Alert! Impact confirmed. Location, Quadrant Gamma 9. Distance, estimated 35 kilometers beyond observation range." Silence. Then ringing in Ava's ears was louder than the alarms that had just died down. "Gamma 9, Lena murmured, awe and terror coloring her voice. "That's deep in the far side, beyond the sleeping giant craters." The far side of the moon was called the Sleeping Giant by the crew because it was a vast, unexplored expanse of ancient craters and dark chasms, almost like a sleeping colossal face etched into the lunar surface. No human had ever set foot there. It was considered too dangerous, too unpredictable, and now Something had crashed there. Damage report, Lena, Ava ordered, pushing down her shock. There were a few moments of silence. Minimal structural damage to the habitat, Commander, Lena reported, her fingers flying across her console. Localized seismic activity, short-lived. No breach, but the energy signature of the impact, it's massive. Off the charts, and it's still lingering. Ava stared at the screen. The impact site was a faint glowing haze on the infrared. Something huge had just hit the moon, and it most certainly didn't come from Earth. Simulation is officially suspended, Ava declared, her mind already racing through emergency protocols. This is a real-world event. Kenji, Lena, suit up. We're going to Quadrant Gamma 9. Kenji and Lena didn't argue. Their training kicked in. Within 15 minutes, the three astronauts were geared up in their bulky extravehicular activity suits, the oxygen recyclers humming softly on their backs. The lunar rover, a rugged pressurized vehicle designed for long-range exploration, was waiting in the airlock. Are we really doing this, Commander? Lena asked, her voice muffled through the comms, but Ava could hear the thrill in it. Curiosity was a powerful motivator, even stronger than fear. We have to, Ava replied, strapping herself into the rover's pilot seat. Kenji took the co-pilot, Lena in the rear. Something just crashed on our doorstep. She considered that comment, in a manner of speaking. But we don't know what it is or why it's here, and until we do, we can't afford to ignore it. The rover's hatch hissed shut. They powered up the engines, the lunar dust swirling softly as they moved out of the habitat's protective bubble. The gray, lifeless landscape stretched out before them, lit by the rover's headlamps and assisted vaguely by the distant sun. The latter was fading quickly as they drove deeper into the shadowed far side. The journey was slow and painstaking. The terrain was rougher than any they'd encountered in their usual training zones. The rover bounced over ancient, eroded craters and navigated perilous ridges. The lingering energy signature from the site of the impact acted as their beacon, a strange, almost musical hum on their sensors. It grew stronger, pulling them onward. After about 4.5 hours, a period that felt more like an eternity, the glowing intensified, spilling over a sharp, jagged ridge. Ava brought the rover to a halt at the crest. Below them, nestled deep within a newly carved crater, was a sight none of them anticipated. It wasn't a meteor or a chunk of space debris. The structure they saw lodged into the lunar terrain before them, massive, sleek, and unlike anything humanity had ever conceived. Its hull was dark, obsidian-like material, impossibly smooth, yet now ripped and scarred from the impact. It gleamed faintly with residual energy, a deep, pulsating violet light emanating from the ruptured sections. It was clearly a vessel of advanced design, a testament to intelligence well beyond that of Earth, which, in their earthly arrogance, they had all come to believe was second to none. The rover crunched closer, its headlamps cutting through the gloom, and the very gradually settling dust revealing more of the colossal structure. As they maneuvered for a better view, the vehicle's high-resolution scanners began feeding more detailed images into their screens. The initial assumption was impact damage, but the scanners painted a different, more unsettling picture. Alongside the expected distortions from hitting the lunar surface, there were deliberate, unnatural wounds. Deep, linear gouges scarred the otherwise smooth hull, too precise to be random collisions. Puzzlingly symmetrical scorch marks, like dark fingerprints, marred vast sections of the surface, as if something incredibly hot had been precisely applied. In other areas, the dark material had not only fractured, but also visibly melted and flowed, then resolidified into grotesque patterns, suggesting that intense focused energy had been directed at these specific points. It wasn't the chaos of a natural disaster, it was the chilling precision of an intentional act. This magnificent vessel, designed for interstellar travel, hadn't simply failed, it had been systematically, brutally attacked. "My God," Kenji whispered, his voice full of stunned reverence. "Someone, something, shot it down." Lena, silent until now, finally found her voice. "Commander," she said, her tone hushed, "there's a faint signal coming from inside. Life signs." Ava's gaze was fixed on the alien vessel. A ship shot down with life inside. The simulation, the boredom, the drills, all of it vanished, replaced by a singular terrifying thought. Humanity was no longer alone, and its first encounter with something truly alien was here, now, on the dark side of the moon, not with a greeting, but with a wreckage. Kenji was already adjusting the rover's long-range sensors, trying to pick up any other signatures in the vast emptiness around them. Nothing in even remote proximity detected. Whatever attacked it, they're long gone. Ava nodded. The silence of space felt heavier now, charged with unseen conflict. "All right. Plan. We approach it cautiously. Lena, you monitor comms and internal signals from the ship. Kenji, prepare your xenobio kit. We don't know what we're walking into. Keep your suits sealed, helmets locked down, no direct contact with anything without my explicit order. Understood?" "Understood, Commander," they both replied, voices firm. They parked the rover about 100 meters from the downed vessel. Even from this distance, its sheer size was humbling. It lay half buried, a dark monument to a violent cosmic event. A wide gash, jagged and glowing faintly with that lingering violet energy, served as a possible entry point. "Looks like the primary breach point is starboard side, near the aft section," Ava reported. "Kenji, Lena, with me, stay alert." The lunar dust puffed around their boots as they made their way towards the ship. The gravity here was different from Earth's, making each step a deliberate float. The enormous scale of the vessel became even more apparent as they drew closer. It dwarfed them, a mountain of alien technology. They reached the gaping wound in the hull, approaching with cautious slowness. The edges were sharp, almost crystalline, yet twisted by immense force. Inside, a soft light flickered from exposed conduits, almost resembling sparks, and strange alien symbols covered every surface, glowing. The opening glistened with a faint transparency, almost like they could see the inside of the ship through its smooth wall. Kenji approached, casting a look of daring curiosity at Ava. He reached out his suited hand as Ava's eyes widened, as if trying to decide if she should halt this daring and potentially dangerous act or trust Kenji's confidence. Not reading any signs of rejection, Kenji turned and tapped the translucent gap in the hull, pulling his hand back quickly. It was very odd. He both felt the wall that wasn't there, but also had the tips of his fingers brush through the surface. Confused and intrigued, he looked over at Ava with wonder as she returned a similar look. This time, Kenji didn't wait for an order, and he put his palm against the surface as if leaning, immediately tumbling toward it as he tried to get his footing. Ava gasped. In lunar gravity, Kenji seemed to fall into the hull in slow motion. She stepped forward as if to stop him, but saw him get to his knees inside the vessel right through the wall. He looked over and held his hand up as if asking her to stop and give him a minute. He was not to give her orders, but at this point she cautiously obliged. "No immediate environmental hazards detected," Kenji reported, checking his suit's readings. "I'm detecting... Well, this can't be right. Oxygen. The levels are stable, too. Even the temperature is nominal for human habitation. Surprisingly..." "Lena, are there any more of those life signs?" Ava asked, shining her helmet lamp into the hull. "Still faint, Commander," Lena replied, her voice filled with a mix of trepidation and excitement. "One distinct signature, deep inside the vessel. It's incredibly stable. Almost too stable." How is something too stable exactly? Ava puzzled. Never mind. Stay focused. Kenji, I'm coming in. Lena, stay in contact at all times and prepare to move the rover at a moment's notice. She carefully stepped toward the vessel wall, and Kenji, who had just finished looking around, waved her in. She stepped in cautiously. It was unnerving stepping through a solid wall that wasn't there, but within a minute, Ava was inside the ship. Together, they carefully navigated the wreckage, clambering over twisted metal and through narrow passages. The damage here was more severe, clearly where the attack had struck hardest. They saw what looked like highly unconventional control panels, shattered, consoles melted into slag. Whoever had attacked this ship wanted it destroyed. Finally, they reached a large circular chamber at the heart of the vessel. The room was mostly intact, filled with soft, pulsating lights that illuminated intricate patterns on the walls and ceiling. And in the very center, bathed in a gentle, ethereal blue glow, was a large, transparent cylinder. They neared it cautiously, using their headlamps to look inside. In the center of the cylinder, suspended in a shimmering liquid-like medium, was a humanoid creature. It was slender, taller than an average human, with graceful limbs and a delicate frame. Its skin was smooth, a soft pale gray. Its head was proportionately larger than a human's, with wide dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient secrets, even in their closed state. There was no hair, no visible ears, just smooth, elegant curves. It wore what looked like a simple, form-fitting garment that gleamed with the same internal light as the ship's walls. It looked utterly peaceful, almost asleep. A stasis pod, Kenji breathed, moving closer, but still keeping a respectful distance. It's preserving it. Incredible. The technology. Whatever you're seeing, it's alive, or there is something inside that vessel with you that is, Lena added, her voice hushed. The life sign is coming from very close to your current location. Ava stared at the creature. It was undeniably alien, and yet undeniably sentient. The implications crashed down on her. This wasn't just a ship. There was a being aboard. A survivor. Kenji, check for any data logs near the pod, Ava instructed, trying to keep her voice steady. I'll scan the pod itself. See if you can get any readings on its composition, its energy source. Ignore my former directive, Lena. Make your way through the wall like we did and follow the lights. We need you in here. As they looked around, Lena arrived, and after taking in the chamber preserving a strange creature, moved to a console near it. The controls were unlike anything she'd ever seen, but the ship's internal systems, damaged as they were, seemed to be offering a form of simplified interface. Symbols she hadn't seen before glowed, indicating functions. She touched a glowing icon tentatively. Suddenly, a flood of raw data, a torrent of vivid images and overwhelming sensations slammed into Ava's mind. It wasn't sound, it wasn't words, it was like a sudden, forceful download of abstract concepts. Blinding light filled the space, the profound vacuum of space, searing pain, a desperate, ancient purpose, then sudden, crushing darkness, followed by an endless, still peace. It was disorienting, causing a sharp, intense pressure behind her eyes. It was information, but without a guide. It was just chaotic noise. It was just chaotic noise. Kenji and Ava recoiled too, clutching at their helmets. What was that? Kenji gasped, his voice strained. A feedback loop? My head. It's coming from the creature, or the passenger, Ava said, fighting through the mental static. It's projecting, like a scream, but without a voice. She remembered Kenji's earlier hypothesis about neural patterns. This creature wasn't trying to speak. It was transmitting its very being, its experiences, directly. Lena, despite the overwhelming mental input, looked almost exhilarated. Commander, my prototype translator, the one for nonverbal signals, I think it's designed for exactly this. It's meant to filter raw neural input. Ava looked at the pod and then at Lena. The risk was immense, but the potential reward, the chance to understand, was even greater. Can you reconfigure it? I'd like to try, Lena said. Her focus was already turning to her prototype device, a compact, complex array of sensors and processors she carried in her suit's utility belt. But I'll need to reroute some power from the pod's internal systems. It's the only way to get enough energy to filter this much raw data. And I'll need Kenji to help me access the ship's conduits. Kenji, still rubbing his temples, nodded. I can handle that, Commander. The energy signatures from the pod are unique, but I think I can tap into them safely. Ava made a split-second decision. This was what they were here for, to push the boundaries of human knowledge. Do it, she commanded. Proceed with extreme caution. The next few hours were a tense dance of alien technology and human ingenuity. Kenji, guided by Lena's instructions, meticulously connected Lena's experimental device to several key points on the stasis pod, tapping into its energy matrix. Lena, meanwhile, worked feverishly, adjusting the internal settings of her neural signal filter. She was essentially trying to build a bridge between a chaotic alien mind and the structured processing of a human brain. The silence in the comms was broken only by the hum of their suit systems and the soft clicking of Lena's adjustments. Finally, Lena spoke, her voice breathless. All right, it's online. Kenji, activate the power conduits very slowly. Kenji carefully engaged the connections. A soft hum filled the chamber, growing steadily. The blue glow around the stasis pod brightened, then stabilized. And then a change. The chaotic mental static into the astronauts' minds began to dissipate. The overwhelming torrent of images and feelings didn't stop, but became clearer, distinct, like listening to a jumbled radio signal suddenly snap into focus. A powerful image formed in Ava's mind, a vast swirling galaxy, not unlike their own Milky Way, but seen from an impossible distance. Then a single jewel-like planet, teeming with vibrant, otherworldly life, a place of profound peace and advanced civilization. Was this their home world? A term flooded into their minds on repeat like a persistent loop. It was hard to recognize it. It sounded almost like Xylar. I'm hearing Xylar. Are you? Lena said. Ava and Kenji nodded. Just then, the term stopped pumping into their surroundings. It stopped. Is it because we understood? Then there was a sharp jolt in their minds. It wasn't painful, but more like someone tapped them on the shoulder in a friendly manner, except it tapped on their brains. Then the image shifted to a different perspective, a more immediate one. A ship, Xylar's ship, soaring through the blackness of space as if viewed from inside the primary cockpit. And then a sudden, violent burst of light. Other ships, smaller, faster, like predatory insects, swarmed it. Explosions. The sensation of being ripped apart. Desperation. A desperate final act to preserve something precious. Then the plunge. The long, silent fall. And the deep, cold embrace of stasis. It was the story of the crash, told not in words, but in pure, unfiltered sensation and imagery directly from Xylar's mind. Lena's voice broke the silence, filled with astonishment. Commander, I'm getting it. Not words, but concepts. Clear as day, it's trying to tell us something. More complex conceptual images began to flood their minds, now flowing with a growing clarity thanks to Lena's filter. They saw Xylar's species, elegant and graceful, engaged not in war or conquest, but in acts of interstellar diplomacy. Images of them meeting diverse alien races, sharing knowledge, and creating bonds of understanding across the cosmos. It was a vision of a harmonious universe, a stark contrast to the violence that had brought Xylar's ship down. Then, The narrative from Xylar's mind intensified, focusing on the attack itself. It wasn't just a random act of aggression. They saw the attacking ships not just like predatory insects, but with more detail. Angular, dark, bristling with glowing weapons, and more disturbingly, a symbol on their hulls, a jagged claw-like mark. The mental images came with a cold, piercing sensation of absolute dread and ancient hatred. These were the Void Walkers, a name that echoed with a chilling, pre-verbal sense of immense, ancient conflict. Xylar's mind stream showed its ship, targeted not simply for destruction, but as if it represented something specific, something that needed to be silenced. The attackers were relentless, focusing their fire on key systems, disabling them rather than obliterating them outright. This was not a quick kill, it was a deliberate crippling. The imagery conveyed a clear purpose: to prevent Xylar from reaching its destination, and its destination was Earth. The concept of Earth, a vibrant blue-green marble, appeared vividly in their minds. But intertwined with this image was another, more sinister one. Not just the Void Walkers attacking Xylar's ship, but faint, ghost-like projections of the Void Walkers themselves, seemingly on Earth in ancient times. They weren't fighting, they were manipulating. Whispers of fear, shadows cast over developing human minds, ancient figures twisting perceptions, planting seeds of mistrust against anything other. A profound sense of sorrow emanated from Xylar. The transmission showed the Void Walkers observing early human settlements, almost like sinister puppeteers, subtly influencing tribal leaders, planting ideas of terrifying outsiders and the need for isolation. They weren't conquering, they were corrupting. They were twisting humanity's innate curiosity into primal fear. Their goal, the overwhelming mental impression from Xylar conveyed, was to ensure that humanity would never reach out, never form alliances, always be consumed by suspicion of the unknown. It's showing us ancient Earth, Lena grasped, her voice strained as she wrestled with the influx of information. The attackers, they were on Earth centuries ago, manipulating us. Kenji reeled, clutching his head again. No, that changes everything. Our myths, our legends of demons and gods, were they? It's not just a crash, Ava said, her voice barely a whisper, her mind struggling to process the monumental implications. This isn't just about a downed alien. It's about us, about our history. The stream from Xylar then clarified its purpose, the reason for the stasis pod, the reasons for its journey. A clear, insistent thought construct, sharper than anything before, settled into their minds. Envoy, alliance, centuries ago, intercepted. The stasis pod, Xylar conveyed, was not just for preservation. It had a unique function, a temporal anomaly field that effectively paused its subjective time while the universe outside continued. For Xylar, the attack had just happened, but for his species, a single mission had been disrupted, but no time had passed. But Earth had evolved. This was the twist. Presented with stunning, undeniable clarity, Xylar was sent to forge peace, but was intercepted by a rival race who then engineered humanity's fear of outsiders, creating a barrier that had lasted for millennia. And Xylar was still stuck in its mission, centuries out of sync. It's an ambassador, Lena finally managed to articulate, translating the profound concept. It was sent to Earth to form an alliance, and it was stopped by these Void Walkers, who then rewrote our history of fear. A new series of thoughts from Xylar, softer now, but filled with an urgent hope. Its primary directive remained unfulfilled. Its ship, although battered, contained the core components needed to send a specific long-range signal, a message that only its unique frequency could transmit. It needed assistance to reactivate these systems. A powerful image then flooded their minds. A repaired ship rising from the lunar surface, and a signal, not back to Xylar's homeworld, but to Earth. A new message, untainted by ancient lies. It wants us to help it fix its ship, Lena translated, her voice trembling with the enormity of it. Not to leave, but to finish its mission, to make contact truly with Earth. The unspoken question hung in the recycled air of the damaged chamber. An alien envoy, millennia late, with a story that rewrote humanity's past, and it was asking for help to finally deliver its message. The entire future of Earth, of interstellar relations, perhaps even of human self-understanding, rested on their decision. The choice was clear, yet impossibly heavy. The silence that followed was broken only by the steady hum of the stasis pod and the soft whir of Lena's neural signal filter, now humming with surprising efficiency. Ava looked at Kenji and then at Lena. Their faces, pale under the helmet lights, showed a mixture of disbelief, wonder, and a nascent, terrifying hope. This wasn't just a science fiction dream anymore. This was real, and it was demanding an answer. Ava's mind raced, weighing the risks. Xylar's story was incredible, almost unbelievable, yet the raw power of its mental projections, the intricate detail of the Voidwalker's influence, and the profound sadness in its voice made it feel undeniably true. If Xylar was telling the truth, humanity had been robbed of millennia of potential progress, of interstellar kinship, all because of an ancient deception. But how would Earth react? Panic? Hostility? History had taught them that humanity often met the unknown with fear. It's a massive risk, Ava finally said, her voice low. Earth, they won't believe us. Not at first. They'll want to contain it, dissect it, study it, or worse. But Commander, Lena interjected, her voice earnest, if his story is true, we owe it to humanity to at least try, to break free from this ancient lie. And what if it isn't lying? What if this is our only chance for a peaceful first contact? Kenji interjected. The data from Xylar's mind stream, it perfectly explains so many inconsistencies in the ancient human records, so many inexplicable fears. It's too precise. It feels like the missing piece. Ava took a breath. She looked at the serene alien form suspended in the pod, then back at her crew, their faces resolute. They shared a burden now, a secret that could change everything. All right, she decided, her voice firm. We help it, but we do it our way. We control the narrative, at least initially. Her plan formed quickly. They would work with Xylar to get its communication systems online, but they wouldn't simply let Xylar transmit its message without Earth being prepared. They needed evidence, undeniable proof, and a carefully managed introduction. Lena, keep the neural signal filter active, Ava ordered. Record everything. Every thought, every concept, every image Xylar sends us. This is our insurance policy. It's what Earth will need to believe us. Lena nodded, already adjusting her equipment. Consider it done, Commander. I'll encrypt the entire data stream. Only Deep Space Command will be able to access it. Kenji, focus on Xylar's ship systems, Ava continued. We need to understand this communication array. What exactly needs repair to send this specific signal? We'll use our equipment, our tools, but under Xylar's guidance, no surprises. Understood, Kenji replied, his eyes already scanning the intricate alien conduits near the pod. It'll be like performing open-heart surgery on a ghost, but I think I can manage. Over the next few days, the lunar base became a hive of secret, frantic activity. While maintaining the illusion of their simulation for distant Earth command, the three astronauts worked tirelessly within the alien vessel. Guided by Xylar's conceptual transmissions, streams of complex schematics and precise instructions filtered through Lena's device, Kenji began the delicate task of repairing the ship's primary communication array. It was painstaking work, requiring human adaptability to interpret alien design principles. But the combined intellect of Xylar and their ingenuity proved a powerful force. Finally, the day came. The ship's internal lights pulsed with a renewed strength. The damaged section of the hull, although still visible, no longer radiated the raw, uncontrolled energy from the crash. The air within the chamber hummed with a quiet power. "Primary communication array online, Commander," Kenji announced, wiping a bead of sweat from his forehead. "Output stable. It's ready for transmission." Ava stood beside the stasis pod, looking at Xylar. It sent a final, clear, conceptual transmission, a feeling of immense gratitude intertwined with a quiet anticipation. Its purpose, after centuries, was finally within reach. "Lena, is the recording active?" Ava asked, her voice hushed. "Full stream, Commander," Lena confirmed, her fingers hovering over the console. "Every second since we woke it up, encrypted and ready to send." Ava nodded. This was it. The moment of truth. "All right, Xylar," she whispered, not knowing if the being in stasis could hear her, but needing to say it anyway. "Let's see if humanity is ready to answer the door." They carefully retreated from the ship, returning to the lunar rover. They watched from a safe distance as the ship began to power up. A low, resonant thrum vibrated through the lunar dust beneath their tires. The violet glow intensified, not erratically like before, but with a controlled, steady brilliance. The ship hummed with life. Then, instead of lifting off into space, its energy signature spiked, focused. A powerful, directed burst of data shot out from its central core, not towards the stars, not towards Xylar's distant home, but directly towards Earth. Lena's comms console immediately lit up, intercepting the massive targeted transmission. "It's broadcasting," Lena whispered, her eyes wide. She activated her neural signal filter, and the ancient primal language of humanity's manipulated past flooded their comms, echoing across the vacuum of space. It was a voice from a forgotten time, resurrected to speak to a world that had forgotten its true history. "We are ready to talk. This time, don't let fear answer the door." The signal faded, leaving an eerie silence broken only by the steady hum of their rover. Ava, Kenji, and Lena sat motionless, staring at the alien ship, then at each other. They had done it. They had opened a door that had been sealed for millennia, and now the choice was truly humanity's. Ava activated her external comms, speaking directly to Earth, a message not for the simulation, but for the highest levels of command. "Lunar Base Lambda to Earth Command. Priority 1. We have made contact. Request immediate resource deployment for extraterrestrial vessel recovery and analysis. Full data package incoming. Prepare yourselves. History, as we know it, just changed." The lunar silence stretched on, pregnant with the unknown. The ship remained silent, its message delivered. Humanity would soon receive a choice, a chance to overcome ancient fear and embrace a future it never knew existed. The real journey, for all of them, had just begun.